Fucked up story about an old roommate. Alright X, here is the story of my ex-roommate, whom we will call John. He was kind of a dumbass, and a crackhead, and had a bad habit of eating my food and getting into my shit when I was not home. But this fucker had some of the most amazing hookups for weed, and when he was not being a completely greedy bastard, it was some of the best smoking I ever did, so I was almost willing to let his shit slide before I decided to move out. We are going to break the story into 3 pieces as follows. 1. Moving in and meeting John. 2. Meeting the guy John has been getting his weed from. And number 3. Deciding to get the fuck out of there. Part the first. The summer after my sophomore year at college, I decided I didn't want to keep hiding my smoking from my parents, so I started looking for an apartment and a roommate who would not mind me smoking. I actually kind of met John for a friend of a friend of a friend while talking about hookups, and his name came up, and I was told he was looking for a new roommate. Apparently, the last one had just kind of skipped town without paying his half of the rent. At the time, I thought, bad karma, and assumed that the guy was a dick. I think now that I understand what really happened after living with John for a while, that will come up later. When I showed up to take a look at the place and ask about rent and shit, John was outside, moving a bunch of his stuff his last roommate had left behind out to the dumpsters. We started chatting up, and I told him I was looking for a place. We talked about my job, then weed, and we went inside, and I matched him for some mids, and we smoked a couple bowls. I sent some stuff later, saying I would basically stay until late fall, and then see where it went from there. I thought I saw some useful shit, like a lamp or something, in the dumpster, so I went back later and kind of picked at the dumpster. The last guy had ditched all sorts of stuff he could have at least sold before taking off, textbooks, etc. I ended up taking a lot of it and selling it. It ended up paying my first month's rent or so. John was pretty cool at first. He had a pretty consistent supply of sour diesel and some OC Kush that smoked like a dream. He claimed that his dealer got his stuff from a bunch of local growers. I did not really care. He would sell it to me cheap, and I could leave my pieces out in the open without worrying about any drama at all. By the 3rd week, we'd settled into a pretty steady routine of getting blazed Wednesday night. I worked Thursday, Friday, wake and bake Saturday, invite some friends over Sunday, and smoke, work Monday, then maybe work Tuesday, otherwise, just kind of winging it. This is where we move into part 2, where shit starts to get really, really weird. We get it, dude, you smoke. Part 2, where shit started to go bad. I started to notice that some of my stuff did not seem like it was staying where I left it, so I set up a camera on the bookshelf in my room. Sure enough, I caught footage of John fucking with my stuff when I was busy at work. He wasn't taking anything, just coming into my room and touching my crap. He would look through my papers, look under my pillow, fool around with the books I had on my desk, all sorts of weird stuff. And I mean, he did not take anything. Pocket change, money left out, weed, nothing at all. I had no idea what was going on, but I did not confront him about it because I did not want to deal with the awkwardness. Around this time, I ran into one of the little side annoyances of living with someone who usually has good weed, which is people coming by at weird hours of the night to buy. A really skinny, anxious-looking woman showed up well after midnight one Saturday asking for John. I told her I was his roommate and that he was not home at this time. He was out meeting some friends, I think, and she freaked out and asked if she could buy from me instead. I asked how much she was looking for, thinking weed, but then I discovered she was looking for crack. I freaked out and told her I did not deal with anything like that and locked the door. Feeling pretty riled up and thinking I'd already caught him in my room anyway, I ran into John's room. It did not take long to find evidence that not only was he selling it, he was doing it too. I was pretty freaked out. I have never smoked anything other than weed, not even cigarettes, so this was a pretty big deal for me. When John got back, sometime around 5 a.m. I think, I tried to talk to him about the woman that came by, but he was barely understandable, so I just let him just go to his room and pass out. I went back to my room and locked the door, feeling thoroughly disjointed. I was almost asleep when I heard something fiddling around with my window. The AC was kind of shit, so I had left my window open a crack with a fan on for the breeze. When I looked up, someone was hunched next to the sill, fucking with the screen like they were trying to get in. I shouted and threw a buck, and they ran off. I went out to the kitchen window to see if I could get a good look at them as they took off, and I kind of regret it. Whoever it was, they were apparently naked. I saw someone pale and bony tearing off between cars and into the bushes across from the apartment. I did not sleep for the rest of that night at all. When John finally woke up, I confronted him about the woman and the weird naked guy trying to get in my window. I assumed it was another desperate crackhead. I had a hard time staying angry at him because he got genuinely sorry, begging me not to leave because I was such a great roommate, saying he would buy me an ounce of strawberry cough to make up for all the trouble I had to deal with. So I relented. I said fine. He told me he'd been trying to quit the crack for a while and did not even sell it anymore, and that anyone who showed up in the night was probably just really hard up for effects, or else they would not have even thought of him. Then he said he would introduce me to his dealer on Saturday, which brings us to part 3. Part 3. This is when I started to realize I needed to get out of there, even if it meant moving back in with my parents, or just being fucking homeless instead. That Saturday, his dealer, who we will call Louis, came over. He was a really clean, well-spoken white guy in his 40s, really neatly cut hair, clean skin, etc. He brought some hash in addition to the weed, then just watched us smoke it. I felt really weird just smoking while he watched. He constantly smiled really weirdly. When I asked if he wanted to smoke at all, he explained that he did not smoke his own product. He did this awkward little wink which made me feel really creepy, as he told me that he was into something a lot more exciting, and that he had been screening John for a while to see if he was ready to get in on the game. I would tell you more, but you could get in trouble just for hearing about it, so we will see if you're right for it as time goes by. I started to feel really shady about the whole setup. Granted, I smoked myself stupid that night, but in the morning, I decided that I was not going to smoke anything for a while, nothing at all. I handed my whole stash over to John, told him I was going to take a tea break because I wanted to look for a new job, and started taking more video. John did not come into my room for several days. At this point, it was late summer, and when I finally caught him in my room, it was not on film. I woke up in the middle of the night with him crouched next to my bed, fucking trying to cut off a piece of my hair. I clocked him in the face and pinned him to the floor after knocking the scissors out of his hands. He did not even fight. He just burst into sobs, and I realized that he was wasted. He started blubbering and apologizing and kept calling me the wrong name. Then I started to feel really fucked up. He said something along the lines of, "I'm so sorry, Keith. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I'm so sorry." Just apologizing over and over and over. He said something about being in too deep and how he was so scared. I tried to calmly suggest maybe getting help, trying to settle him down, and he started making this fucked up, keening, screechy sound, saying no one could save him, that he was damned. At this point, he leaned over and puked all over the carpet next to my bed and passed out. I dragged him into his own room, then came back to clean up the floor in mine. The twin bed in my room had been there since I moved in. I just put a new mattress pad and sheets on it. There were also some boxes of notebooks and shit that had been there before, but I still had not bothered to dig through. I moved them to clean up the vomit and noticed something under the bed. I lifted the box spring to get a better look at it and got the really pleasant surprise of seeing an uneven, red-brown stain about the length of the bed. It looked pretty obviously like blood. Someone smarter than me might have called the police and just taken off, but I was afraid of just calling the cops on a red stain in my room, not to mention the fact that there was weed and pipes and shit all over the apartment and the crack in John's room. I grabbed my keys. I was about to leave, but as I stood in the front doorway, I stopped to listen. There was someone fooling around in the darkness under the carport. There was a weird kind of scuttling noise coming from the direction of my truck. I shouted into the dark, and this time, not one, but two naked-looking fuckers tore out of the shadows into the bushes. I pussied out and went back inside, which turned out to be the best course of action. When I went back a few hours later, when it was light out, they had disconnected a bunch of shit from my engine and stolen some parts. Unfortunately for me, most of my good friends in the area were out of town on vacation, and due to a messed up relationship with my parents, I did not want to call them and ask them to come pick me up, but I had to get out of there. When John woke up, he did not seem to remember the night before. I told him about my truck, and he got all freaked out and apologetic again. He helped me find a number for a towing company, then offered to drive me to the repair place. I got really nervous when I realized that we were driving in an odd direction, and he said that he wanted to stop by Louie's place real quick to buy something for some friends. I should probably mention that I had not seen any of John's friends at the apartment for a few days. It's mostly been him driving out to hang with other people, whom I never ever saw. I asked him who Keith was, and he got really uncomfortable and said it was his last roommate. I asked him if he knew why he just up and left, and he shrugged and did not answer me at all. His phone went off, and I gathered from what I heard on my end that he was talking to Louie. When he hung up, he pulled off on the side of the road and did not look at me. I asked if anything was wrong, and he started fiddling around with the door pocket on his side. When he turned back, he had a big knife and looked really fucked up. Had a weird smile on his face. I'm really sorry about this, man. Before he could even move, I clocked him for the second time, grabbed the knife, then booked it out the passenger side. I was in a weird neighborhood I did not recognize, and I was terrified, running through people's backyards, jumping fences, clutching this big-ass knife that I was determined not to lose because it was evidence. Someone apparently saw me and called the cops because I got picked up pretty quickly. I explained the situation as calmly as I could. The cop that picked me up took me back to the apartment. How the fuck did he not get like 10 bullet holes? And I let him in, letting him walk in front of me. Huh? No fucking cop is gonna do that. Are you fucking stupid? I could see him looking all over at all the weed shit, but when I showed him the stain under my mattress, he got really serious and told me that I would need to come with him to the station. In the end, I moved back in with my parents for a month or two, and they paid for a lawyer for me, because my room was basically spotless, drug-wise, so I did not get any flack for that. I never heard anything more about Louie, but I did find out about the blood in my room. Apparently, it was a match for Keith, who was missing. John got taken in on suspicion of murder, along with a lot of drug charges, and last I heard, he took his own life in his cell. The police kept the knife, and they never found my camera. It was gone from the apartment. To this day, I have no idea what happened to it. I swear, I saw one of those naked fuckers lurking outside the house a few weeks after the trial was up, but I can't be sure. I was sober after that first night with Louie, and it's still really rare for me to light up at all, even with close friends. No moral of the story or anything. I just guess the lesson I learned was that if I have to choose between smoking out in the open and living with my parents in my 20s. If it means a threat to my life, I am going to deal with paying rent to my rents. That is my story, X-Files. Peace. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed the story so far. If you do and you want to hear more, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment down below, as it lets the algorithm know that you like my content and it promotes it to more people. My goal for the channel is to hit 50,000 subscribers, and we're closing in fast, so thank you, and back to the stories. When I was in elementary school, there was an annual camping trip for every class, so each class got to essentially pick their campground off of a designated list and then go camp there. All the places were within 3 to 4 hours of the school, as I remember. This is in Washington State, so they were all in pretty heavily forested areas. I think maybe it was kind of a lottery system if several classes wanted the same spot, but anyhow, it was on the last week, or maybe the week before of school, just kind of, you done good kids type of reward. Well, that's what I always figured, not entirely sure, because we still had to meet up a couple times a day to learn about nature and do assignments. Have not met anyone else whose school did this, so I guess it's unusual. So, 4th grade is finishing up, almost camping time. Class friends and I are all getting excited, talking about maybe revisiting this camp that had a pretty sweet layout next to a lake, so we could go fishing if we wanted. Think maybe there was a little zipline thing too, if the water had warmed enough. Just little boy things. End up getting shafted on the pics though. Don't get any place we've been before. End up going to this place, which I will never return to, called the Buffer. No, it's not the Buffer. Called the Puffer Butte Lodge. Show up to school early Monday morning, and everyone loading on their designated buses with all of their gear. This place had cabins, so we did not have to bring tents along this year. Leave around the time school is supposed to start, 8:30 to 9 a.m. The only adults on the trip, beside the teacher and bus driver, who was not staying, were a few volunteer parents. That year there were 3 moms, can't remember whose, and Brandon, plus my friend Jeff's fathers. More than 20, but less than 30 kids in the class. Think we were on the bus for 3 hours before we finally rolled in. He dropped us off, and teacher verified his return date at the same time, Friday morning, unless there was a change of plans. So we have no vehicles out here, but I'm a little kid, so this was no concern of mine. This is before everyone had cell phones too, but the lodge had a landline for any kind of emergency. Place seems pretty legit. Nice lodge with a kitchen, so whole class can meet up for meals and whatnot. A couple ping pong tables, and a foosball table in there too. There were maybe 10 cabins, and the lodge was pretty big, so that place could have accommodated quite a few more people. We only ended up using 4 of the cabins, 2 for boys, 2 for girls. They had bunk beds, so easy to fit us all in there. Get all our stuff unpacked, argue over who gets top bunk, you know how it goes. Ended up losing rock, paper, scissors, or however we decided. So I'm on the bottom, next to one of the cabin's 4 windows, 1 window on each side of the cabin, 2 of which are in the front and back doors. The cabins were all unique, as I recall though. I think one did not even have windows, and some had more than 4. The bathroom/shower place was separate from the cabins, located basically in the center of the camp, in between where our cabin and the girls' cabins were. It's lunchtime by now, so everyone convenes in the lodge for some sandwiches, and our teacher announces we're all to go on a hike after lunch. All students are given these worksheets, and we are to document 2 types of flowers, 2 types of animals/insects, and a few more things our teachers wanted us to look for, just like that. We have to draw them, and then write a little description about it, and what have you. So, the hike begins. Seems like we're mainly traveling uphill. Parents are helping keep an eye on the children, as we would stop every 10 minutes or so, and would roam a bit off trail to inspect possible finds. Everything goes according to plan. We've all filled out our worksheets and turned them into our teacher as we start heading back to camp. Must have been 3 to 4 p.m. by then. Teacher heads into the lodge with our worksheets and a few moms to start dinner prep for 30 people. Not exactly sure if she had planned on grading them or what, and us children got our free time under the other parents' supervision. They had a nice field in front of the lodge, with volleyball net and a backstop so we could play some kickball. Did not have a bat or anything, but kickball was just fine. About 10 minutes later, the teacher comes out of the lodge looking concerned. She asked to speak with Jeff's father in private. Can see them through the lodge window. She is holding someone's assignment, and Jeff's father begins to look a little rattled. He comes out and asks Eric, the student, to come inside. Can see Jeff's pops and the teacher asking him about his assignment. Both look pretty unsettled. Eric just seemed to be explaining it, not upset or anything. Eric comes back out. What was all that about? I asked. The teacher said I'm making up the animal that I saw, but I didn't, I swear. I just don't know what it is, he said. Never got to see his drawing personally, but the teacher and Jeff's dad clearly did not like what they had seen. Why had they seemed so upset? Not like we're all the greatest artists in the 4th grade, but you'd think a teacher would let your terrible drawing skills slide, you know? A big bell at the lodge sounded around 6 to 7 to summon everyone in for dinner. A few of the moms had whipped up some burgers and tots for everyone. After dinner, the dad set up a fire at the fire pit near the lodge. We made s'mores and sang some songs we had learned in school, and then told some spooky stories. Around 9, it was time to call it a night, so we put out the fire and headed for the cabins. As I recall, Jeff's dad, who was our cabin leader, had brought along the adventures of Tom Sawyer, or some variation of those stories. He read aloud the first chapter or so, and everyone dozed off. I woke up in the middle of the night with an urge to poop, so I flicked on our cabin's porch light and grabbed my flashlight. Then I made my way to the bathrooms. There was a decent-sized light out front of it, so it was easy enough to locate at night, but I always feel safer with a flashlight. Took care of my business and started to head back toward my cabin. Now I started getting that feeling, the one that so many people get in these situations, of being watched. I could see the cabin porch light in the distance, but something did not feel right. I could have sworn that our cabin had been the one right next to the cabin whose porch light was on, and that cabin whose light was on had been unused thus far on our trip. But as it was late, and I left the cabin in such haste, when I gotta poop, I just assumed I had mixed up the cabins. Walking up to the porch, feeling creeped out, I realize I can hear something, kind of muffled. It's Jeff's dad's loud-ass snoring in the cabin next to the one I am approaching. Hear floorboards creak inside, and then the porch light flicks off, and I book it from my actual cabin, only like 20 feet probably, as I could hear the death snore. The porch light of our cabin was no longer on. Check it when I get back inside, and it was working fine. No one is unaccounted for. If it was someone that was with the group, they definitely were not from my cabin. So I climbed back into my lower bunk. Of course, the window that my bunk is stationed at is facing right out at that cabin. As I am trying to fall back asleep over that snore, I swear, I could see the interior lights of that cabin turn on out of the corner of my eye, maybe even a flickering, but I was so petrified I did not look over. Tuesday morning, Jeff's dad had set an alarm and was making sure we all got up. I tell Jeff's dad about what happened last night. He tells everyone in the cabin that if we need to go to the bathroom, we are to go in pairs from here on out, even if it's daytime. Hear the faint ring of the bell coming from the mess hall, and we make our way down. After breakfast, we had some free time for an hour or two, and then our teacher said it was time to go on another hike. She did not pass out the activity sheets this time. We went on a different trail than the one we took the first day. This time, she was just pointing out various things to us and telling us their name, and things like how Native Americans use this herb for stuff. Some time passes. We had packed trail snacks with us, so we decided to take a quick break. Did not notice it at first, but after we had been sitting around for a few minutes, we started to smell this horrible, rotten scent, like I could not even eat after I started to smell that. The dads with us checked a couple 100 feet around our perimeter, and when they came back, suggested we get moving as soon as possible. Never found out what they saw, but they definitely seemed like they wanted to get the fuck out of there. Get back to camp for lunch within an hour or so. The dads keep glancing behind us the whole hike back. Make some sandwiches and grab some chips. Free play initiated. So me and Jeff are running around, doing 4th grader things. I tell him about the bathroom incident last night, in the cabin next to ours, and being the ballsy motherfucker he is, he says, let's go check out the cabin. Very hesitantly, I agree. At least it's daytime, I tell myself. We tell the parents we are going to head to the bathrooms real quick. We are paired up, so they let us. Make our way over to the cabin. Appears normal outside. He runs right up and opens the door. Wait, I yell. I am spooked from last night, but he holds none of my uneasiness. He is inspecting the cabin, while I am just peeking in from the front porch. I see something on the bed nearest the window, and this is the window that I had looked last night. I would have been peering into from my cabin. There was what I thought was a Lucky Rabbit's Foot keychain, if anyone remembers those. Weird. Someone left their Lucky keychain behind. Like, this cabin is completely empty of anything but this rabbit's foot on that bed. Get closer to it, and I realize this is not a fucking keychain. I could see a small patch of dried blood underneath where it lay, and could see the uneven edge of a recently departed, maybe ripped off but not cut, limb. Jeff, what the fuck is this? We exchange some horrified looks and book it to Jeff's dad and tell him what we just found. Insist he come have a look. When we return to the cabin with him, it's just gone, but that dry blood patch is not. He seems a little weirded out and doesn't think his own son would make this up, but tells us to go back and play with everyone else. He is right behind us on our way back down. We join up with the other kids, and he pulls Brandon's dad aside to discuss what he had just seen. Couple of hours of kickball pass, and it's about time to have some dinner. They made us a bunch of Chef Boyardee raviolis and garlic bread. Ah, yes. Repeat the fire like the night before. Head to the cabins at 9 or so again. This time though, before we go to bed, Jeff's dad tells us that if we have to go to the bathroom or anything, to wake him up, and he will go with us. Wake up in the middle of the night again. No particular reason this time. Well, not in the nature of having to use the bathroom or whatever. Just wake up. Jeff's dad snoring may have done it. I don't even understand how a woman could sleep in the same room as him on a regular basis. It was that ridiculously loud. Not as spooked as the night before. Roll around trying to get back to sleep. Glance out the window, and in the window of the other cabin, there is a human silhouette. I scream like a little bitch and wake up half the cabin, including Jeff's dad. Tell him that I just saw someone in the other cabin. He looks as scared as I am. He had brought a machete and one of those giant spotlights on this trip, like 10,000 candle power, if that helps anyone's frame of reference. Tells us to stay in the cabin and lock the door behind him until he is coming back. We all watch in horror through my bedside window as he reluctantly makes the 20 to 30 foot trek to the neighboring cabin. He's got the machete up, ready to swing, shining the light in the windows he can see from his vantage. Continues to slowly walk up the porch, machete held up, and ready to swing at anything. He does not enter the cabin. He just shines the light around the cabin from the front door window. From inside our cabin, we did not hear anything, but suddenly, Jeff's dad does a quick 180. He is looking around, shining his light at the tree/shrub line. He had heard something behind him. We are shitting bricks, and we hear him yelling at whoever or whatever he may have heard or even seen. Eventually, we see him lower the machete. He comes back and says he did not see anyone in there, but he heard something. Get almost no sleep the rest of the night. Did not hear Jeff's dad snore either, so I assume he was up too. Wednesday morning, we are all up having breakfast. Jeff's dad pulls the other parents and the teacher aside. They discuss what happened the night before, and whatever else had been going on, maybe Eric's picture, and whatever the smell was in the woods, if they had indeed found the source. Our teacher used the phone in the lodge after they conferred. She made it clear that something unexpected had happened, and she told us that she wanted to end the trip that day, but because of some conflict with the bus, we could not get one up there until tomorrow. We did not have any of the regular, scheduled activities, hikes, or whatever learning camp experience that we would normally have that day. After breakfast, the parents had us pack our things from the cabins and move our stuff to the mess hall. We would all be sleeping together in one building that night. We pretty much just got free play all day, besides meal breaks. Did not have a campfire that night, and just hunkered down in the lodge as it started to get dark. After what had happened the night before, I wanted to sleep as far as possible from any of the windows in the lodge. We all dozed off eventually. I woke up again that night too, pitch black in the mess hall. Jeff's dad's snore. It echoed so loudly in the lodge. I wondered if anyone else was even asleep. Glanced around the room, and at the far end of the lodge, I saw someone standing there. There was a single-person bathroom at that end of the lodge, so I was hoping it was just someone in line for that loo. 1 or 2 minutes pass, I check back, still just standing there. Start to freak out. Can't even bring myself to make a sound, and even if I did, the snore outweighs it so heavily. I reach for my flashlight and shine it down there. No one there anymore. I lay back down, thinking I'm just overly scared from the previous incidents. Night eyes readjust, look down that way again, and now, like 15 feet left of where that figure was, there it was again, right by the foosball table. Hide in my sleeping bag, just terrified. It sounds like Jeff's dad's snore is getting closer to me, or he is just snoring even louder. Poke my head back out again. The figure has moved maybe 10 feet closer. Nope, back under the covers. Snore keeps getting louder and louder. It sounds like he's standing right above my sleeping bag, snoring or mimicking that sound right in my fucking face. Finally, my vocal cords break through, and I muster out a yelp. Immediately, the sound stops. Jeff's and Brandon's dad comes walking inside from the front porch. He was not even sleeping. He was out on the front porch with Brandon's dad. They were smokers, maybe pot too. Did not sleep the rest of that night. Bus showed up in the morning. Never knew what that was, and Jeff and I could never put the pieces together.